जय राम माधव कुंज बिहारी राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोधनन्दन जन रंजन यशोधनन्दन जन रंजन यमुनातीरावनचारी यमुनातीरावनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन जन रंजन यमुनातीरावनचारी हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम हरे राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण हरे Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Gaurangi, Vishwara Gaurangi, Vishwara Gaurangi, Jaya Jagannatha, Baladeva, Subhadra, Jaya Sudarshana, Jaya 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 Prabhu, 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 जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र सदस्य श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्रजाचार्य स्तोत्र सदस्य श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री वासादि गौरभक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। मायापुर श्री नवद्वीप धाम की जय। मथुरा धाम की जय। द्वारका धाम की जय। जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। गंगा माई की जय। यमुना माई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी महारानी की जय। समवेत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। गौरभक्त प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Shri Sri Gauranga. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna devotees, welcome for ISKCON Seshadripuram morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. Thank you for taking your time out and joining us here. We will today be discussing 3 verses. I have been asked to discuss 3 verses today. 3rd canto. Let me just share the screen. Yeah. So is it visible now?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay, so we are discussing today 3rd canto status quo, 33rd chapter, activities of Kapila, and then verse number 18, 19, and 20. So let me start with verse number 18. Grihodhyanam kausumiti ramyam bhavyamara brumaihi kujat vihanga mitunam gayan madhu vratham. I will read all the 3 verses and all the 3 purports, and then we can discuss. Griha Udayam, the household garden. Kausumitihi, with flowers and fruits. Ramyam, beautiful. Bahu Amara Drumaihi, with many celestial trees. Kujat, singing. Vihanga, of birds. Mithunam, with pairs. Gayat, humming. Mattha, intoxicated. Madhu Vratam, with bees. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The compound of the main household was surrounded by beautiful gardens with sweet, fragrant flowers and many trees which produced fresh fruit and were tall and beautiful. The attraction of such gardens was that singing birds which would sit on the trees and their chanting voices as well as the humming sound of the bees made the whole atmosphere as pleasing as possible. There's no purport for this. We'll go to the next one. Chapter 3, Canto 3, 33rd chapter, 19th verse. Yatra pravistam atmanam vibhunachara jaguhu vapyam utpala gandinyam kardameno palitam. Word by word meaning. Yatra, where. Pravistam, entered. Atmanam, onto her. Vibhuda anucharaha, the association of the denizens of heaven. Jaguhu, sang. Vapyam, in the pond. Utpala, of lotuses. Gandinyam, with the fragrance. Kardamena, by Kardama. Upalalitam, treated with great care. Translation. When Devahuti would enter that lovely garden to take her bath in the pond filled with lotus flowers, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband, Kardama, gave her all protection at all times. Purport. The ideal husband and wife relationship is very nicely described in this statement. Kardama Muni gave Devahuti all sorts of comforts in his duty as a husband, but he was not at all attached to his wife. As soon as his son, Kapila Deva, was grown up, Kardama at once left all family connection. Similarly, Devahuti was the daughter of a great king, Swayambhuva Manu, and was filled and was qualified and beautiful, but she was completely dependent on the protection of her husband. According to Manu, women, the fair sex, should not have independence at any stage of life. In childhood, a woman must be under the protection of the parents. In youth, she must be under the protection of the husband, and in old age, she must be under the protection of the grown children. Devahuti demonstrated all the statements of the Manu Samhita in her life. As a child, she was dependent on her father. Later, she was dependent on her husband, in spite of her opulence, and she was later on dependent on her son Kapila Deva. We'll read the next one with the last verse for today's discussion. Hitva tat ipsitatamam api akandala yoshitam kinchit chakara vadanam putra vislesanat pura. Word by word meaning. Hitva, having given up. That household. Ipsita tamam, most desirable. Api, even. Akandala yoshitam, by the wives of Lord Indra. Kinchit chakara vadanam, she wore a sorry look on her face. Putra vislesana, by separation from her son. Atura, afflicted. Translation. Although her position was unique from all points of view, saintly Devahuti, in spite of all her possessions, which were envied even by the ladies of the heavenly planets, gave up all such comforts. She was only sorry that her great son was separated from her. Purport. Devahuti was not at all sorry at giving up her material comforts, but she was very much aggrieved at the separation of her son. It may be questioned here that if Devahuti was not at all sorry to give up the material comforts of life, then why was she sorry about losing her son? Why was she so attached to her son? The answer is explained in the next verse. He was not an ordinary son. Her son was the supreme personality of Godhead. One can give up material attachment. Therefore, only when one has attachment for the supreme person. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita. Param drishtva nivartate. Only when one actually has some taste for spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshururmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadanti Swa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tamsa Jivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Visakan Vitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brinda Vaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauravakta Vranda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, so these three verses, out of which one does not have a purport, the other two have a purport. We will discuss them. So this background here, activities of Kapila Dev, is the overall chapter called. So here we have been seeing many chapters of the instructions of Kapila Dev. So Kapila Dev is the son of Devahuti and Kardama Muni. So Kardama Muni also has been discussed here in this verse. Maybe some little bit of a flashback here actually was given there to give a background of, what was the status of Devahuti in terms of her opulence, but where is she right now? So to give that, I think this verses come in between. But if you look back, Devahuti and Kardama Muni, they were married. They had they spent many years doing very austere devotional service, and then Devahuti said, "Okay, now I'm married to you. Why not also have some enjoyment of what is a married life for, like that?" And then Kardama Muni obliged. He made amazing arrangements. He created worlds where he and she can live very happily for thousands of years, like that. They had those were described much earlier, and she lived a very opulent life. And some background of that was like a flashback has come out here. And post that, then he decides, okay, now that whatever your desires are also fulfilled, now let's move on in life towards our purpose of our existence, purpose of the life, purpose of why we are here in this material world, and what is the objective of this life, final objective of this life, and what we should achieve at the end before we leave this body. So he says, okay, now I am going to leave, But of course, before that, he can't leave alone. So she can't leave alone. So he says, okay, I will give you a son. And as per the earlier arrangement, the Lord himself gave him the boon that he will come personally as his son and use that opportunity to instruct the world. So that way, Kapila Dev, who's an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, became their son. And then Kardama Muni left to the forest to continue his austerities. And here Kapila Dev then now his job is to actually ensure his mother is given the salvation. So he actually takes care of his mother, taking care not just physically in terms of her comforts, protection, all that, but beyond that, he actually gave these complete instructions on, just like how Arjuna was given instructions by Lord Krishna. Here, even more very elaborate kind of a thing. I don't know. I'm tempted to say like that because he gets into much more details. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita, it's a completely different. Not completely. The approach was different. Here, the approach was different. But he gave all the details, and he made her completely come to this point of why, what is the purpose of life, and what should be your next steps going forward. And of course, after that, completely instructing the spiritual, it's like, once the disciple is completely instructed and is very clear, then the spiritual master moves on like that. So the Lord leaves. And then Devahuti is to prepare herself also for this journey back home, back to Godhead. And of course, in that, she has a lamentation. These are the things that is being discussed, that a lamentation that she is going to lose her, or she is losing her son because he is going to go away. So these are the background, and we will touch upon the two verses which Prabhupada has elaborated on in our discussion today. So the first verse in which the Prabhupada has given the purport is the 19th one, where he's saying, when Devahuti would enter the lovely gardens to take her bath in the pond filled with lotus flowers, the associates of the denizens of heaven, the Gandharvas, would sing about Kardama's glorious household life. Her great husband Kardama gave her all protection at all times. So this is the subject matter of discussion. What is the role of the husband in a Grahastha ashrama? And of course, what is the role of the wife also in the Grahastha ashrama? And overall, what is the role of women-bodied jivas? So we need to understand this clearly. So Grahastha ashrama, as we all know, it's not meant that it's like just like everybody is born, then they need to study, then they need to marry, then they need to take vanaprastha, or whatever it is there. But it's not always necessary that a Grahastha ashrama is a must for every man. Those men who are not able to completely focus on spiritual life, focus on the way forward in terms of taking the soul forward to its final destination. Those men who are not able to do that, being in a spiritual platform, but is afflicted by the bodily needs, bodily expectations, then they are given some liberty after completing their brahmacharya life up to 25 years. Then they are allowed the little bit of what do you say? Should I say that it's a kind of a concession to enjoy the material life, or should I say it's kind of a ability to balance my inability, right? So the first statement is anybody can be brahmachari all through, right? There's no need to become a grahastha. But since he does not have that ability to be completely in a spiritual platform, but is afflicted by the bodily requirements, he has to adapt to it, and therefore that concession is given. But the concession is not to enjoy, but the concession is to help progress in the get over the problem, right? There are some hurdles are there. One, you completely give up, or you manage that with a little bit of a compromise, but the aim is to actually move forward in that direction. So this is actually a kind of a setup like that. So not that everyone need to become a grahastha, but those who are not able to as per the scriptural, things, that they can take a Grihastha. So there is this kind of a concession. So now when you talk about that, then there is always the need that two souls are coming together. And the other thing is women, there is nothing called brahmacharya for women. So these are two very delicate things to be balanced. So on one side, all men need not marry. On the other side, all women need protection. That we will come about the protection because Prabhupada has written very elaborately. He has discussed nicely on some aspects of this protection. But women should be married. That let's start with that point, that they should be under protection. Naturally, protection means marriage gives them the protection. So at least there is no brahmacharini in women as per the scriptures are concerned. So that is the delicate balance. There are men who will continue to be brahmacharis, but there are women, I don't know the ratio of whatever, there is always supposed to be all women to be married. So now, when that comes into a situation, these two souls are together coming up for living together. Now, the clear objective is Aham Brahmasmi, I am the soul, and my purpose is actually to go back to Godhead. That applies to both the bodies, men body and female body. Now, to do that, as I said, there are some challenges which came up for the men, and therefore they are adopting one of the workaround to go to that space. And women also needs to be taken care of. So it works well for both of them. So they are married. Now, in this situation, when two souls come together, there is always this expectation of course, because they are not at that level where you are completely liberated. Then you won't have even married in the first place, right? Therefore, there is always some expectations on both sides. How do we balance that? So here, Prabhupada writes, and in the scripture, in this verse also, it is written very nicely that her great husband Kardama gave her all protection at all times. So there, it's here one main aspect is discussed, but there are other aspects to it. So Prabhupada, in many places I have read that, when you marry, then you should really nicely take care of the wife. That means what is taking care is a big definition, how people interpret it. But Prabhupada talks about the comforts that needs to be given to the wife is very important. If you see, two things are there. One is we are all souls. That means we have got nothing to do with the body. That is the ultimate understanding. But having said that, when we take a human form or any other whatever form, there are these bodily related properties which are there, which sort of influence 90% of the people. Whether you like it or not, these come as part of the package. So your body, so I'm more related thinking in terms of the body's properties. So a woman is wired in a way while men is wired in a way. There is a kind of properties, just like when you say water will flow. Water can also be frozen. That's a different thing. But by nature, water will flow. So this is a property of the water. Like this, when you talk about a woman body, a woman is having a kind of a DNA which works in a slightly different way than a man. So, for example, a woman by nature needs protection. A woman always looks for validation. The woman by nature has, if I have read some of these things, even in Prabhupada's, this one and elsewhere also, that women are more emotionally bound where men are more physically bound. That means men are more gross in their mind. That means for them, things are clear, black and white. It's direct thing. But for women, it is more of a mental, more sentimental. So this is the wiring of the brain. It is not got to do with, how can this be? No. It's just that, there was once a discussion, I think, in Chennai, this discussion about the men bodies and women bodies came up. And then there were people discussing, why, how come that, why you are differentiating between men and women, all are same, we are saying spirit soul, then why are you distinguishing, why, women should be treated, it was not meant in a negative manner when the thing was, but people took it as no, women should be treated lower or whatever. People argued from that perspective. So this devotee, I forget his name, he's the head of science, Rasaraj Prabhu. So he was actually saying, he gave this nice example. See, let's see, there's a pilot. So when there is a pilot and he is now going from his home to the airport. So a pilot is going to be driving that, piloting that flight from here to, let's say, Bangalore to Delhi. And that flight can do 800 kilometers per hour or whatever. Now that pilot is now going from Bangalore, maybe like, let's say, from Seshadripuram to our airport. So like 50 odd kilometers. Now in that 50 odd kilometers, he has got a car. Now in that car, when he's going, he may go maximum 100, 120 near the airport area, but inside the city, maybe 50, 60. Once he reaches the airport, he shifts to the flight and then he drives that at 800 kilometers per hour. So what is the difference? It is the same person. Then he gave this example. The limitation is not with the person, it is with the equipment that he is using. So in similar way, when I'm talking about the soul, there is no limitation. Every soul has got same ability, same capability, same thing. Ultimately, that ability is the servant of Krishna. But then when that soul is boxed inside a kind of a machine, you can only work as much as the machine works, in one sense. I mean, I'm not saying we are under the control of the body. We are supposed to be controlling the body. But there is a capacity for which a body can work. That is, it's a very subtle thing. But I understand here, everybody is devotees here, so you understand what I'm saying. While we can overcome, our objective itself is that, the 8 components of the body, the senses, the mind, the intelligence, and the soul. And intelligence is supposed to control the mind, and mind control the senses. And it should not be the other way around. All that is great. But when it comes to the application, there is these challenges will work. That's why he's saying mind is very difficult to control. Arjuna is saying, oh Krishna, it is very difficult to control than the wind. How can I control it? So we are dealing with practical problems, not the ultimate statement. Yes, this is the reality. This is the truth. Yes, we all know that is the truth, but how do we get there? Right? That is the thing about Grahastha ashram, right? I am already struggling. Otherwise, I would have become a sannyasi, become a full-time, work very hard in the whatever, but I'm not able to. So then how do I manage that? But my goal is very clear, going back to Godhead. How do I do that? How do I transcend that stage? Okay, you become a Grahastha, you manage this. At the time, I have a wife, or if I'm a woman, I have a husband. And how do I deal with that situation? How do I use that situation, but go forward? That is the thing. So here, the women has to be taken care. So why I gave all these things is women has some way of thinking about a particular issue. Men have a different way of looking at the issue. So men has to be mindful of this aspect of it. So you talk about taking a decision, like I want to buy a house. Then the requirements of a woman in her mind, the sentimental attachment to it, what she wants to, what she thinks about it is completely different than the way the man looks at the physical properties of the house. He looks at the logics of, why it is asset value, this, that, and all that. The women may look at it differently. But it is also the responsibility of the man to really take care of the woman for all her comfort. So its comfort means it is also mental. It's not simply physical comforts, right? There are, you can't cage a woman. You can give a nice golden cage, but then if she's not happy in that golden cage, then what comforts are we talking about? So this is very important. But as devotees, we understand comforts are not simply about materialistic comforts. All the comforts, like Prabhupada talks, when he talks about comforts, he says, whatever jewelry, women have natural affiliation towards jewelry, towards dress. And I specific words of Prabhupada, I'm not adding something from my personal experience here. So Prabhupada uses these words, specifically nice ornaments and stuff like that. So you can relate to all these other things which it naturally goes with the dress, it goes with the ambience of the house and things like that, which are slightly fine in nature, right? Whatever. So these are things which will give them the happiness. Then it is the responsibility of the men to take care of it. But at the same time, it is not like, I am a servant of all the needs of my wife. That is also not there, because he has clearly mentioned, but Kardama did everything by, he is not attached to the wife. In the sense, his job is also to see that both of them, husband and wife, are able to progress in their devotional life. If the needs of the woman is only 100% towards the material body, but does not care for the spiritual life, it is also the responsibility of the husband to see how he can help her get to that point where she can actually look at taking up devotional service and progressing. This Kardama Muni's example, very nice. Actually, after they did so much austerities, she helped, she gave everything. She became so lean, such a beautiful lady. She became so lean and ugly. She did everything because she wanted to follow her principles. But at the end of the day, of all of that, completion of that, she said, Prabhu, now can you also, the purpose why we married, can we also leave some, grahasthashram life? Then he said, okay. Then he did all these big bungalows, whatever, the flying apartments, if I can say so, and all these beautiful gardens. We saw these gardens, what we saw, where she just goes into that river, into that pond, and the Gandharvas are singing, the birds are, the atmosphere is so nice there for sort of material bliss, if I may again call it that. So he arranged for those kind of things, but he never lost focus on still what is the purpose of life, because it's not artificially, imposing something, but keeping the end goal in sight, trying to go slightly, give in, like when some children cry, right? What happens when you have a child who's adamant on something, which is our case as well with Krishna, how he's treating us. When the child is so adamant, now, one way is give a big slap on the face and say, you sit down there and just do what I'm telling you. It's fine. It can happen for a few minutes, but the child is not going to be, transforming completely, transformation will not happen. It will become a kind of a force for the time being. But assuming the child is crying for something, then you do a lot of talking, then give a little bit of what he's asking, but also all that at the same time, tell him about, what are the challenges, because if he has this, what is going to happen? And be supervising him all through and then trying to get him off that hook. When you have it, then after a point in time, he loses interest in it. But at the same time, we also guide him and make him understand and then get over that problem. This is a transformation happening. This is what is happening even for us, because we said, Krishna, I don't want to be under your control. I want to be independent. Krishna said, it doesn't work like that. No, I don't want to listen to you. I have my own ideas. I will do what I want to do. Okay, so I said, okay, fine. I will allow you. Then he created this material world. He didn't want to, but he created this material world, gave us an opportunity. But Krishna's idea is not, okay, to hell with you all, get out. I don't care. He doesn't think like that. He says, okay, he's so adamant. How can I help him? How can I help him see sense? How can I transform him? How can I reform him? Okay, I will give you this. Then at the same time, he arranges himself coming here again, over a period of time. He sends his messengers, gives them the holistic message, makes them see sense in what they are doing is not correct. And then the transformation, the reformation happens. After that, that person, that Jiva says, I understand fully. I made a mess of myself, and I'm now grateful that you have been so kind to help me out, and I will now make my effort to come back. See, that is the journey of a devotee. Now, the same thing for the child. Once you help him out and all that, then slowly he comes back to the main path. Similarly, in Grahastha Ashram, the husband, wife, each one supporting each other, even though it is not the best interest of thing. But the ultimate aim is to put us back on that track. But in the meantime, this is where I stand, and how do I balance both of this and move forward? So I should not get dragged into material existence. Because Kardama Muni is a great example of enjoying life. So many places it's mentioned that you have to be it's like walking on a tightrope, this one. So you can't just use this to jump off into the material sphere, at the same time, not ignore the realistic situation of the mind, the body, and all of the other stuff. So it's a very fine example, and each one has to take inspiration, but take guidance of the spiritual master, of senior devotees in their specific circumstances, and see how. But the larger context is, I need to be my end goal, or everything should still connect back to my desire to progress in devotional life, and activities. Every day there has to be these activities to connect it to the devotional life. In between, there will be some of these. Today, why not you make pizza, right? Okay, make pizza, offer and eat. Pizza is not required. Maharajas don't really look for pizza. They eat without taking salt, right? When you see Maharaja's menu, we may give so many things, but they are not really interested in it, but they take because we give, but they will still say, don't put salt, don't put this, and all that. So this is not, you can't say pisa is a prasadam, so it's okay. That is fine. Prasadam is fine, but why not be even more austere? That is the realistic situation, but we are not able to. So this is reality. So, but ultimately we can't remain in that state till I'm, in my deathbed. I need to progress, but this Grihastha should be used to get over this problem and move forward. Now coming to this protection aspect of it. So given the property of the body, Prabhupada is advocating here that one point is being discussed very elaborately. Prabhupada is talking, the women should be under protection at all stages of her life. That means at the stage of being a girl, a small child, then as a youth, as well as an old lady. So the first one is as a child, she is under the protection of the father. Same too for the boys, under the protection of the father. Now, when she attains to the age of maturity, then she should be given to the protection of the man, of a young man who will be her husband. So this is another important thing that now there are other things which comes into play. The body comes into play in this aspect of it, and it is very important that the father has to shift that responsibility from himself of protection to the to a eligible son-in-law. That is very, very important, because that is where a lot of problems come in. So the right age, I don't know, we have Indian laws and all that, which I'm not saying child marriage and all that, but we need to be very clear. 30 or 35 may not be a very good age to marry. So it's the earlier the better. So that is one important thing, because so many things happen in the mind, and the fresh mind, when that transition happens in the mind, if you are able to identify the right person for the girls, according to her nature, if you are able to identify the right boy, there is nothing like a great grihastha for that thing. So identify so that they are not, both for that matter, both men and women, they are not already corrupt in their brains. It's very easy to commit to each other nicely if a lot of corruption has not already happened in their minds. Like if you allow even for a man up to 28, 30, 40, then they have already gone through a big journey of so many things. I'm talking about general materialistic life, but devotees are not immune, right? We are also in that community, so there are always supposed to be influences at all stages. So we need to be mindful and see what is the best thing possible given in a devotee environment, how we can manage this. So earlier, Subhashya Sikram, they say, so the earlier the better, find the right kind of thing. And then the dependency is also easier, right? When you are young, then that relationship building is easier than when we are older, because so many complications happen in our brain. The maturity brings along with it a bigger ego. But when we are young, it is easy to trust another person, rely on that person, and adjust to the person, and all those things becomes very natural, because infatuation or whatever you call it, that also comes with a binding, right? Prabhupada says, when Prabhupada talks about this elaborately in elsewhere, I heard his classes, where he says this Hridaya Ganti, right? This Hridaya Ganti is like once two people get attracted, then there's a knot which is formed in their heart, and that knot keeps them going, right? So this knot can happen easily in the younger age than in the olden age. The earlier the better, and that knot will be stronger in the younger mind and thing. And the commitment to each other, the what do you call the trust, then the what do you call the loyalty, everything will be very strong if they are reasonably at. I'm not for no way. I'm not talking about child marriage. That is not what is advocated. At least earlier the better. Whatever is early you can think of in terms of today's context, but not before too much of corruption happens in the mind of both the parties, the boy and the girl. But particularly for the girl here, the discussion is she should be married and she should be protected by the husband. And we have seen, we may deny, we may say, no, it is not. Why are we putting women down? No, it is in the interest of women. See, even today, I know of many friends who are in US, who are physically seeing these kind of things. I've heard even last week, girls who are like 18, 19-year-old, having a child, not having a married, and the girl has to survive on her own. So she comes to the mall to take up a job, part-time job. She carries the baby along, and these people who I got this information, they have spoken to them to understand what is it, how is their life going on. A miserable condition that, this fellow, whoever has given her this child, he's just walked free. There's nothing, no commitment at all. He's just gone off. And this 18-year-old girl with a 1-year-old child, I'm talking about an advanced country like the United States of America. Now you see how difficult that life is, and here we'll keep all this nani and all that. You can pay some 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees, you will get people. There you can't keep labor. So it is hard labor for that girl. There is no protection, absolutely. She has to labor through all her life to find, and then she will say, okay, then she is looking for, can I marry some other person, and I have another boyfriend to have. So these are all very difficult for the girl. But simply marrying and then being under the protection of that man. Men by nature is having that mood, just like a Kshatriya has the mood to give protection. Between a man and woman, if you see, men has a nature, as I said, is gross. He's always about power. Not always. It's not a power, means it's a subtle thing that, to keep things under control, to protect whatever is his surrounding. It is natural instinct for a man. So when there is a woman married to him, that lady does not have to bother about him. He will take care of that. It's about that equation, about that Hridaya Ganti, about that commitment to each other. While you take care of some of the aspects, I will take care of some of the aspects which are very favorable for you. You take it. What is easily favorable by the nature of the body, I will do those services. While your body fits some nature, you do those services. It becomes easy for both these people to handle. So that is how this protection is being talked about. So now when you go in that direction, naturally there is trust. Then the children come. And when the children come, they see an ideal husband, wife, their parents, and they see that, they are very nicely balancing their life. They are very happy. Their focus, of course, is on devotional life and how they are cooperating, how they are living a nice life. Children naturally take up to it, right? There is nothing artificial about it. Children see from their parents. When they see this, they feel very nice. And the parents are the first influencers, right? We are today influenced by so many social media things. Children get influenced by so many nonsense all over the world, but the first influencer is the parent. So when they see this thing, no artificiality, but real life of their parents, right from childhood, their personality developed wholesomely. We have seen in many devotee families like that, very nice children coming up beautifully. So it's natural. It's nothing need to be taught. It is there. You are seeing and you are learning from that. So they come up as a holistic, nice citizen, nice devotee, nice responsible personalities, whatever. So children, that benefit happens. And later, what is the expectation here is, man, there's the other side, right? In the spiritual life, the man cannot be, okay, now I'm so much tied to my wife. It's very clearly said, you should not be attached to your wife. You are doing a grihastha to progress in spiritual life, but you can't say, okay, therefore, I just want to marry because I had to marry, but I don't care for you. That attitude will not go on. We need to care, but at the same time, not so much attached, but go forward to next part of our devotional life. So that way he moves on to Vanaprastha and Sannyasa, if possible. Of course, Kali Yuga, Sannyasa is prohibited. Of course, not everyone will be able to take it also, even if you are given. Our situation is not so very great. But the procedure is there. But at least let us be not mentally hooked on so much to the other body, like the male body or the female body in terms of husband or wife. But move on and see how we can take up more devotional service like that. But in that situation, the mother's position becomes critical, because a man will become more into, like in this case, Dardama Muni leaves. The women, okay, now what is the problem for her? It's not, she's anyway old. She does not have to worry about, young body, therefore some trouble coming to her body. Nothing may not happen like that. But today, in today's Kali Yuga, you see newspapers, so many things are happening. But nonetheless, protection has to be given. So when you are trying to give protection there, the son takes over that position. So in this case specifically, Kapila Dev actually gave her the spiritual instructions to help her to, get back to Godhead. So that is very important. So she's still under protection of the son. So it's not to say that therefore a woman is subjugated or something. It is, as I keep again and again saying, because this should not be interpreted in a wrong sense. That's why I'm repeating again. This is all about mutual dependency. And I will give you some examples. Prabhupada never treats women in any way negative or whatever. He has very clearly said that, there were some times when, in particularly in Kali Yuga, it's about who's more advanced devotionally, that person can lead the ashrama. So there were some examples of Prabhupada disciple, and he has specifically called out and said, your wife is better. Like that. And then there was some art, this one, and then both of them did some diorama. So Prabhupada was inspecting all the dioramas, and then he saw, and then he called out, this diorama, his wife's diorama is much more, mature and thing and all that, and said, you can actually follow her like that, in terms of taking overall directions for devotional life. He said, you can actually follow her like this. And Prabhupada has said, all women actually should take up preaching. He never stopped anybody from preaching or whatever he said. And when people also ask these questions, no, Prabhupada, why are you saying women are? So he said, no, I'm not saying this. He said, in a materialistic way, life, the bodies have properties, and therefore these things will ensure there is no problem for that particular thing. But if you're a devotee, then you are already trying to be in the spiritual platform, and therefore for the spirit, there is all are female, right? There, in a one sense, because we are all enjoyed by Krishna. He is the Purusha, we are the object of his senses. So therefore, there's nothing to call that I am Purusha. I am, in that sense, I'm feminine. But as a soul, but therefore he says, if you are in a devotee platform, you can actually lead, but physically we need to take care. A woman, when she goes for a book distribution or whatever, better to have protection. It's very logic, right? You can't say, oh, I don't care. No, you need to care, because there are elements. I have seen in Rath Yatra, when we are going, devotees are blissfully dancing. But when we were watching the line, you see so many fellows come and try to dance in between, try to barge into the women's section and things like that. They need protection. You can't say, no, I don't care. We are in a blissful state. We will dance and move, So this is there. So when you go for a book distribution, we need to be mindful. Protection has to be there for women. We can't leave them alone like that. So whatever, like this, there are various aspects to it. So women need to be protected at different stages. And Prabhupada, as I said, does not distinguish from a devotee's perspective. It is about the spiritual maturity. You can be leader in the community. We can, women can preach, women can do, and women are treated the highest priority given the mother's position. And Indian culture anyway has it, not just in ISKCON. Indian culture, we all respect women like that. So it's a Western concept is different. It is more simply body concept. Here we have an understanding of the physical properties, the understanding of the soul, then the interrelationship. So many nuances come into play here, and therefore it's not about distinguishing based on the body. It is distinguished based on the, just like Varnashrama Dharma, it is not a caste system. It is not about putting one level of people down, another people of level up, but it is more to facilitate a nice society in which everybody can be happily living. The same situation in a Grihastha ashrama between husband and wife. The roles are defined, not that to discriminate, and nobody should exploit each other. That is very clear. Prabhupada is very clear. Shastras are very clear. Women are never exploited, or never to be exploited. So this is not to put down women and put them in a situation of vulnerability that they should be exploited. This is to actually empower them, to protect them, and give them their ability to progress forward. So this is what I thought we will discuss. Even in the third verse, the last verse, one point he's talking about, and this also is very important. Like, if you see, we talked about why so much of you talked about, not fully on devotional. But here the last sentence, if Prabhupada quotes, right? One can give up material attachment, therefore, only when one has attachment for the Supreme Person. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita, Param Dashtva Nivartate. Only when one actually has some taste for spiritual existence can he be reluctant to follow the materialistic way of life. So this is the reality. That is the point. Therefore, it is not artificially that I will act like I am a great devotee, but I know I need to become a great devotee. and this is my current situation, and how do I use this situation to come up to that perfect situation of completely renouncing material life. So that to achieve that objective, this entire thing is important, and to do that, this coexistence, these adjustments, understanding the needs, the properties of the body, all these things come into play. So I end here. I know it's a very big topic. I am very small to speak on this, but when you have to speak, you have to speak. So I stand corrected if something is wrong. Please correct me. Hare Krishna. There are nice devotees here. Uttam Damodar Prabhu is there. Shiv Kumar Prabhu is there. Om Dasar Das Prabhu is there. Darshan Prabhu is there. Anyone wants
Krishna, Vidhur, Madhav, Prabhu.
Very
nicely summarized. I think you were as sharp as a blade, but without cutting anybody. So I think that's the best part of it. In Krishna consciousness, we have to put across the right philosophy and still get a buy-in. That's the most important part of it. And you summarize it very nicely, saying that you're not saying that the women have to be under control. Women need not be under 100% control, but at the same time, they have their own limitations which they'll have to follow, and men are there to protect them. And equally, I think the men have to take the responsibility of protecting the women, which is also important.
Absolutely.
So very, very, very nicely, summarized and articulated, I would say. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, it's a vast subject. There are so many intricacies. Anything can be taken in different ways. But the intent is actually to help all of us, irrespective of the bodies, to go forward in our devotional life. Nothing to talk about individuals in terms of the body, like whether it's a male body, female body. So that's the larger objective. How do we make best use of whatever situation we are in, whichever body we have in? So that is the high level way of thinking. These other things are just navigating through all of this. Hare Krishna. Okay, so we will conclude here. And maybe meet next tomorrow. Thank you all devotees. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Darshan Prabhu, with your permission, we will close the session.
Yes, Prabhu.